5 shocking reasons why you should never remarry after 70. Do you know why remarrying after 70 often leads to more regret than happiness? If you're over 70 and thinking about tying the knot again, this video might be the most important thing you watch today. At first, remarriage can seem like a second chance at happiness. But what if I told you that for many older adults, it becomes a source of stress, loss, and regret? The truth is, once you cross into your 70s, the risks of remarriage shift dramatically. What once looked like love can quickly turn into financial chaos, emotional turmoil, or even legal disaster. This isn't about being negative or cynical. It's about being wise, prepared, and protecting the life you've worked so hard to build. Maybe someone has been pressuring you, or maybe you're just lonely and hoping for companionship. That's completely understandable. But before you walk down the aisle again, you need to hear these truths that too many seniors discover when it's already too late. This is not meant to scare you, but to help you make the most informed, thoughtful decision for your future. So if you've ever wondered whether remarriage in your later years is a good idea, stay with me because the final reason may completely change the way you think about love, trust, and independence after 70. Reason 1. Financial vulnerability. At first glance, love in your 70s feels like a blessing. Someone to talk to, eat dinner with, and share the quiet moments. But what many older adults don't realize is that remarriage at this age can unravel your financial safety net faster than you'd expect. You've spent decades building your nest egg, your pension, your savings, your home. Yet just one legal signature, one trip down the aisle, can put all of that at risk. Not necessarily because the person you're marrying has bad intentions, but because marriage by law binds your assets. If your new spouse carries debt, medical bills, or even children from a previous marriage with financial expectations, you're suddenly part of their financial world, whether you like it or not. Many seniors enter remarriage assuming they can keep things separate. But that's not always how the system works. Once you remarry, your eligibility for certain retirement benefits, survivor benefits, or Medicaid programs can vanish. I've seen cases where a woman lost her deceased husband's Social Security benefits after remarrying, leaving her with far less monthly income than she expected. And she didn't even realize that would happen until the checks stopped coming. Then there's the question of inheritance. You may have adult children or grandchildren you've planned to leave something behind for. But remarriage without proper legal planning can redirect those assets to your new spouse or their family. Even if you trust your new partner completely, relationships change, families clash, and promises get broken. Before you know it, your legacy can slip through your fingers. The psychological toll of this kind of financial loss is severe. Seniors who feel financially insecure often begin to feel powerless, anxious, and ashamed. They may avoid telling their children about their situation out of embarrassment, or worse, try to cover it up entirely. The independence they worked so hard to protect begins to crumble, and the marriage that was supposed to bring joy becomes a daily reminder of what they've lost. Take Ellen, for example. She was 74 when she remarried a kind man she met through a church group. They were both widowed and found comfort in each other's company. But what Ellen didn't know was that her new husband had outstanding medical debt and no savings. Within 2 years, she was using her own retirement fund to keep him afloat, and her children were devastated when they discovered she had revised her will under pressure. What started as love turned into quiet financial panic. When you're in your 70s, financial stability isn't just about money. It's about peace of mind, dignity, and the ability to live on your own terms. Remarriage might offer emotional comfort, but the financial consequences can be staggering. If you've made it this far with a roof over your head, food in your kitchen, and a plan for your future, take a breath before you walk down the aisle again. Your heart might say yes, but make sure your finances aren't saying, please don't. Reason 2. Health responsibility overload. When you remarry after 70, you're not just sharing your heart. You're also taking on someone else's health journey, whether you realize it or not. And at this stage of life, health isn't a side topic. It's front and center every single day. You've probably spent your whole life caring for others. Your children, your spouse, maybe even your aging parents. Now, just when you're finally ready to rest and focus on your own well-being, remarriage can pull you right back into caregiver mode. By the time most of us reach our 70s, we're already juggling our own doctor's visits, medications, and dietary changes. Maybe you have arthritis, high blood pressure, or diabetes. These things aren't small, they take energy. When you bring another person into your daily life, someone who may have even more complex medical needs, you're suddenly responsible not only for yourself but for them too. That means more appointments, more medications to manage, and more emotional labor. It might start slowly. Maybe your new spouse forgets to take their pills. Maybe they need a little help getting in and out of bed. But over time, that little help can become round-the-clock support, and it can drain you, not just physically but emotionally. What was supposed to be companionship starts to feel like a burden you never expected to carry. What many people don't discuss is how this kind of caretaking can actually shorten your own lifespan. Studies have shown that older caregivers often neglect their own health. They skip their own checkups, eat poorly, sleep less, and become socially isolated, all because they're focused entirely on the other person. And in doing so, their body and mind quietly deteriorate. That's exactly what happened to Patricia, a woman I once met at a senior community center. She remarried at 76, and at first it seemed like a dream. Her new husband was charming, sweet, and funny. But within a year, he suffered a minor stroke. Suddenly, Patricia was lifting him, bathing him, and managing his physical therapy schedule, all while ignoring her own knee pain and worsening vision. By the time she came in for help, she was exhausted, depressed, and on the verge of collapse. Her spirit had dimmed. Reason 3, legal complications. One of the most overlooked dangers of remarriage after 70 isn't emotional, it's legal. What many seniors don't realize is that entering a new marriage later in life can create a web of legal entanglements with lasting consequences, not just for you, but for your children and grandchildren as well. Let's start with inheritance. You may have spent your entire life building a legacy. A home, a pension, a savings account, maybe even a few sentimental heirlooms. You likely have your beneficiaries named, your will written, and everything planned. But the moment you remarry, all of that can shift. In many states, a new spouse has legal rights to a significant portion of your estate, even if your will says otherwise. That means your children could receive less, or worse, be locked in lengthy legal battles after you're gone. It doesn't stop at inheritance. Remarriage can also affect your Social Security benefits, particularly if you're currently receiving survivor benefits from a deceased spouse. Many women who were married for decades to their first husbands qualify for survivor benefits that provide a steady monthly income. But remarriage, even one made simply for companionship, can reduce or eliminate those benefits entirely. That's money you may be counting on, suddenly gone because of a new marriage certificate. Then there are medical decisions and power of attorney. If something happens to you, an accident, an illness, a sudden hospitalization, your new spouse may automatically become your legal decision maker, even if your adult children know your wishes better or are better equipped to handle those situations. Your children could be legally sidelined, and if the relationship between them and your new partner is strained, the consequences can be heartbreaking. Carol, age 81, found herself in the middle of exactly such a situation. She remarried a man she met at church, thinking they'd simply be companions in old age. But when she became ill, her new husband had the legal authority to make medical decisions her daughter completely disagreed with. They ended up in court, fighting not only over medical choices but over who would inherit the house Carol had intended to leave to her grandchildren. "I thought I was finding comfort in my last years," Carol once said, "but I created a mess I never meant to." Many older adults, especially those who've worked hard to build a secure life, don't want to think about legalities when love or loneliness is involved. But that's precisely when clear thinking is most important. Remarriage isn't just a personal choice, it's a legal contract with far-reaching effects. At this stage in life, clarity is your best friend. It's not unromantic to ask hard questions. It's wise and it's loving, not just for yourself but for the family who has walked beside you for decades. Reason 4, loss of personal freedom. After 70, the one thing you've truly earned, more than money, titles, or recognition, is your freedom. The freedom to wake up when you want, eat what you like, and spend your days on your own terms. You've lived for decades taking care of others, following rules, making sacrifices. Now is supposed to be your time. But remarriage can quietly take that away, sometimes faster than you ever imagined. When you marry in your younger years, compromise is part of the deal. You're building a life together, making decisions as a team. But by the time you reach your 70s, your routines, habits, and preferences are well established. You've learned what brings you peace, what keeps you healthy, and what kind of company you enjoy. Introducing someone new into that carefully balanced rhythm can feel like more of a disruption than a delight. Most people at this age are set in their ways, and there's no shame in that. You've earned it. But living with someone else again means giving up some of that structure. Maybe your new partner likes the television on all day while you cherish your quiet mornings with the newspaper. Maybe they expect 3 full meals a day while you've grown comfortable with a light, easy routine. These differences may seem small at first, but they add up quickly, wearing down your patience and turning your peaceful home into a place of subtle tension. There's also the emotional labor that comes with any close relationship. Listening, adapting, explaining yourself. You might find yourself spending more time managing emotions, coordinating activities, or navigating your partner's family dynamics than doing the things that bring you joy. Suddenly, your hobbies are pushed aside, your alone time feels like a luxury you have to ask permission for, and the independence you cherish slips away inch by inch. Consider the story of Florence, a 76-year-old widow who remarried after 5 years on her own. At first, she enjoyed the company, meals together, walks in the park, having someone to talk to at night. But as the months went on, she realized she had given up her quiet mornings, her solo vacations, and even control over the thermostat. "I didn't mind compromise when I was younger," she told me, "but now every little change feels like..." Reason 5. Financial entanglement. Remarrying after 70 might bring emotional companionship, but financially, it often opens a door to unexpected stress, confusion, and long-term vulnerability. When you're in your 30s or 40s, merging your life and finances with someone else can make sense. You build together, save together, and plan for a future that's still far ahead. But in your 70s, the game has changed. You're no longer building, you're protecting what you've worked your whole life to earn. And remarriage can quietly undo decades of that work. Money in later life isn't just about numbers in a bank account. It represents your security, your independence, your choices. When you remarry, your financial world doesn't simply grow, it merges. Your assets, your social security benefits, your pension, and even your debts may become shared, depending on how the marriage is legally structured. And unless every detail is carefully outlined in writing beforehand, it's surprisingly easy to lose control of it all. Here's where things get complicated. Suppose your new spouse has children from a previous marriage. What happens to your money if something happens to you? Will your assets go to your own children or to theirs? Without proper legal protection, updated wills, a prenuptial agreement, a clear estate plan, you may leave behind a legal mess that sparks conflict among the very people you love most. Those conflicts can tear families apart. Or consider this. You've spent your whole life paying off your home and are living comfortably on your retirement savings. But your new spouse brings unpaid debt or financial habits that don't align with yours. Maybe they want to lend money to their children. Maybe they run up credit card bills. Suddenly your nest egg is exposed. One shared account, one signature, and the carefully built foundation of your financial life can begin to crack. I once spoke with a man named Gerald, age 82, who remarried after losing his first wife. He didn't give much thought to the financial side of things. He believed love would work it all out. But within 2 years he found himself paying off his new wife's medical bills, supporting her adult son, and selling the vacation home he had planned to leave to his own daughter. "I just wanted company," he told me, "but I ended up giving away half my life." That's not to say remarriage is always financially dangerous. But without honest conversations, clear planning, and protective legal measures, your finances could be at far greater risk than you realize. And in your 70s, you simply don't have the same margin for error you once did. So ask yourself, do I have the energy, clarity, and time to manage a complex financial merger? Am I prepared to protect not just my heart, but my estate, my legacy, and the people I care about? If you feel even the slightest uncertainty, you owe it to yourself to pause, reflect, and seek proper guidance before making such a permanent decision. Final thoughts. By the time we reach our 70s and beyond, we've weathered storms most people will never know about. We've endured love and loss, sacrifice and celebration, silence and laughter. And with each passing year, we come to see life not in terms of what we can gain, but what we no longer need to carry. That's why remarriage at this stage isn't simply a question of companionship. It's a deeper, more personal decision about how you want to spend the most precious years you have left. Perhaps some of you watching are thinking, but I'm lonely. I want someone to grow old with. That's a completely valid feeling. Human connection never stops mattering. But the truth is, companionship doesn't have to come through another marriage. It can come from good friendships, from meaningful family relationships, from community, and from within yourself. The kind of connection that nourishes your soul doesn't always come with a wedding ring. We are conditioned to believe that being partnered means being complete. But what if you're already whole? What if this time in your life isn't about merging with someone else, but about returning to yourself, about finding joy in your own company, about not having to explain yourself, not having to shrink or stretch to fit someone else's mold? That's not loneliness. That's liberation. I've spoken with many older women who remarried and later quietly admitted they missed their independence, their peace, their freedom. Some wish they had paused and truly asked themselves what they wanted, not what society told them they should want. Because once you're past 70, you don't owe anyone a performance. You don't need to prove your worth through partnership. You've already proven it simply by getting here. So before you say, "I do" again, take a moment to say, "I deserve." You deserve ease, joy, rest, and whatever kind of life you want to lead. Remarriage might bring you all of that, or it might not. What matters most is that your choice comes from a place of self-trust, not self-doubt.